Alright, welcome back to our Chapter 2 playthrough of the Mice and Mystics base game. We are working our way through the campaign, and we're going to take up where the last story left off. And if you recall, if you saw that video, Chapter 1 ends with the mice escaping the castle and running into a mouse city in a tree, only to discover that one of the rangers, the scouts who go out and, I guess, protect and forage and do everything that rangers do, one of them is missing somewhere in the castle, and Colin and his brave companions have volunteered to go and find poor Lily, who is pictured here. A couple of words before we dive into the setup here. You might be able to detect a little something in my voice. I've spent the last 4 or 5 days having a lot of difficulty / impossibility speaking, thanks to illness and a bout of laryngitis that came with it. So apologies in advance for any croaks and failures. If my voice starts to give out, maybe I'll pause this recording and take it up as we go forward. But I did have an opportunity this morning to try to give this a shot, so I figured I would. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But yeah, basically we are looking at Chapter 2 here, and scrolling all the way up to the beginning. As we said, the mice are going for a rescue. They're going out on a rescue mission, and some of them may not be as eager to set foot back in the castle as others. But basically, they are diving back into the fray to try to help Lily. So the objective, of course, is to find her and free her. She is stuck in a mousetrap, hence the play on words here, Lily's tail. Not T-A-L-E, but T-A-I-L. Victory condition is to get onto the crystal tunnels where she is, release her, and clear the tile, basically. So if the mice defeat the minions on the crystal tunnel and release Lily, they have rescued her and win the chapter. Defeat involves, of course, if Lily receives enough wounds to be defeated, if the hourglass marker reaches the chapter end, or, of course, if all the other mice are defeated, then they're going to have a rough time getting to her. Chapter setup. You are going to be starting with the chapter end on only page 5. So that's one of the shortest time limits we've got going here in the game. Now, one of the things that you can do later on in the game will allow you to bump that up, and that's most likely where we're going to be going. But there's some wrinkles to that, so we'll get into that in a second. Party setup is 4 mice, one of whom, of course, has to be Lily. Now, whoever winds up playing Lily might need to be, aware of the fact that she can't do very much until she's rescued. She's rooted in place. She can't search. She's pretty much just rolling some dice once in a while. So the setup here, I don't know if you can really see this, so let me zoom in a little bit. The setup of the map is basically you start in the courtyard, coming out of the tree, you bop down to the tunnels below, you bop over into these tunnels, and you can scoot right over and try to save Lily. The problem is, unless you have Nez in the party, because Nez being a tinkerer, he can work the mousetrap and get her free. If you do not have Nez in your party, then you have to get yourself a tool that's going to enable you to be able to pry that mousetrap open. So you need to go and find the dinner fork, which means that when you get to this tile, you're going to have to bop up into the dining room and grab yourself a fork. Problem with that is when you're in the dining room, you got a big fight on your hands, and you have to clamber up onto the table to get that fork. And then the special surge is Brodie, the house cat. So that's a little bit risky because Brodie can be nasty. But there are 2 things that one should definitely be aware of going into this chapter. One, time can run out really fast. And there's one wrinkle. When I've lost this chapter in the past, it's pretty much been because of one thing. But we'll come back to that in just a second. If you get the dinner fork, there is a rule that says that you are going to take the chapter end, which remember started only on page 5, and you can move it up 2 spaces all the way up to 7. So that is a huge boost in time. Now, fighting Brodie can often result in 1 or 2 or 3 pages being lost, so that might not seem like the best trade-off. However, on the Courtyard, there is a special search that allows you to grab catnip. And catnip is a special item that allows you to immediately defeat Brodie instead of fighting him. Okay, and that's right there on the first chapter. Now it's on special spots, but it's not a particularly difficult tile, and it's not that hard to get to some of those spots. Search and find some catnip, and then at that point, Brodie is much less of a threat. So going into this chapter, what you're going to want to be considering is maybe bringing Nez so that you don't need the dinner fork. But even if you have Nez, unless Lily's just getting absolutely mauled, you might want to detour into the dining room just to get that extra time if you think you need it. If you don't need it, then there's really not a lot of benefit to going up into the dining room, and you can just plow forward and try to save Lily toot sweet if you have Nez once again. So that's an argument to be made for bringing Nez along. Now, the thing to remember about this setup is Lily is separated from the rest of the party. She starts out in the crystal tunnels and she can't move. The rest of the party starts out back at the tree in the courtyard. Now, there's a lot of rules in the game that involve where the party is and what's happening for the party, etc. For instance, when you draw an encounter card, where do the enemies go? Well, it's the tile where the mice are, right? So they note here that Lily is not part of the party, and that's a way of kind of clarifying a little bit where enemies go and so forth. So she's not technically part of the party until she's been rescued. There's also a special rule that says that when you draw an encounter card and you place enemies from an encounter card, and I believe this includes surges, but it's a little bit less clear. But basically, when you place minions because of an encounter card, you place 1 fewer small enemy than you otherwise would. So if you get an encounter card that says place 4 roaches, you'd only place 3 roaches where the party is, and any of those other enemies, you would get a roach put onto Lily's tile. So if you have a card that says place 4 roaches, you place 3 roaches on the party's tile and 1 roach on Lily's tile. If you get a card that says place 3 elite rats, you place 2 elite rats and you place a roach on Lily's tile. If you get a surge that says 1 spider, you still place the spider, but you also place 1 roach on Lily's tile. So basically, whenever the party is going into a new room, Lily's getting a roach that she has to deal with. Now, roaches are not especially dangerous, and Lily actually starts with a couple of perks. She actually starts with a piece of cheese, and she starts with the special search card, which is called, what is it? I'm blanking on the name. It's one that lets you cower. I think it's called Intense Cowering, and it's basically just you play it and the enemy doesn't attack you. So she has kind of a get out of jail free card in the event that she's getting mauled. Gives her a little bit of extra time potentially. She also is going to be facing roaches, which remember will steal cheese instead of wounding. So as long as they're just eating her cheese, and she starts with a piece of cheese, she also can generate cheese with her weapon potentially. So she's got ways of getting cheese, and they're just nibbling on her cheese. So that allows her to have a little bit of fortitude. Where this can go south fast is if the party at some point generates an encounter that has greedy roaches in it. The problem with that is if there are greedy roaches, then all the roaches are greedy. So if they draw greedy roaches, Lily has greedy roaches. In fact, any roaches that are still on her tile from previous encounters will also become greedy. And at that point, any roaches anywhere in the game will continue to be greedy until they're all wiped out. So what I've found to be a problem with this chapter is Lily sometimes, because she's only rolling a couple of attack dice, and she's rolling for bows, she has 2 chances of rolling a 1 in 3 to get a bow. She has really no great advantages when it comes to attacking. And the enemies are only rolling 1 die, but still, she can have a great deal of difficulty killing a couple of roaches if she's not rolling well. And she doesn't have any backup whatsoever. So when she starts facing greedy roaches and they start piling up and there's nothing the rest of the party can do about it, then you will find that even if she's surviving, she is throwing a lot of cheese onto the cheese wheel, and that timer starts running out really, really fast. Especially if on the next tile the party goes to, they draw a bunch of regular roaches or something like that, because Lily hasn't finished off her greedy roaches, then all of them are greedy too, and now you've got a whole lot of roaches cheesing the wheel. So the timer can run out really quickly if you run into greedy roaches on this, unless Lily is able to take some of them out pretty quick. So when we go into the setup and we start picking skills and thinking about that, we'll have to have a discussion about that. But that's basically the overview of the chapter. You want to watch out for those greedy roaches. You want to do everything you can to allow Lily the chance to take them out, but there's very little that you can do. And so luck is going to play a big factor when it comes to Lily's side of this chapter. The decision you need to make in the middle of the game is whether you go into the dining hall and try to find that fork, whether you need to or not. Generally speaking, it's a good idea if you're running out of time, because you can add 2 pages to the chapter end. And if you have the catnip, it's generally speaking not that hard to go in there and grab that pretty quick. But if Lily's getting swarmed or if time is running out, you might decide, if you have Nez in your party, not to bother. So we'll have to see how it goes. I think I'm going to bring Nez along just so that I have that decision and I don't have to have it made for me. But it's definitely something to think about going into this chapter, whether you think you need to bring Nez along, because that dining hall is frankly pretty tempting. Another thing to bear in mind is, especially if you are dealing with that greedy roach problem on the dining hall's tunnel tile, there is a special search that allows you to grab the grape. And the grape is a really nice item, potentially, for getting rid of roaches, because you drop the grape and the roaches will move towards it and kind of kill themselves eating it. So you could potentially take out a bunch of roaches with that item, and that can be very, very helpful. All right, so that's pretty much the overview. Let's take a look at the map in Map Tool and get our party started and get going on this. Right, so here we are in Chapter 2, and of course one of the things you have to do is determine what your party makeup is going to be. So let me kind of walk you through my rationale for picking these 4 mice. One, of course, obviously Lily has to be picked. And I also wanted to pick Maginos because, having not used him in Chapter 1, he hasn't had a chance to level up or get any equipment to carry with him going forward. If you recall, Colin got a really nice item. Nez and Tilda both got nice items. Filch got a nice item. All from Chapter 1. I'd like to get Maginos a little bit of love. So there's that. That's one of my motivations for picking Maginos. He also gives me a ranged option, and that's significant because when it comes to the other 2 mice, it's a tough call. I basically, for the reasons I outlined in discussing the chapter as a whole, I'm going to take Nez, and the reason for that is I don't want to be forced to have to go into the dining room if I don't need to. Now, again, I'm not worried about it, but going in there and facing Brodie, isn't super scary if you have the catnip, and you can add 2 pages. But if you're 1 tile away from Lily, as it is, and you've got enough time to pretty safely get in there and save her, then kind of why bother, I guess, is my attitude. So I like to not have to take that risk, not have to dive up there and potentially, because it's all well and good to have the catnip, which is an automatic kill on Brodie, but if Brodie moves once or, God help you, twice before any of your mice can move, then none of you can use catnip to defeat Brodie before he's potentially capturing one or two mice. And there go your 2 bonus pages right there. So, they're dice that you might have to roll, but I'd like to not have to roll them if I don't need to. So I want to bring Nez just to have that option. Plus, I feel that he's a good choice, especially after getting him a little bit of defense, because I want to be able to hit real hard, and him rolling those 4 attack dice, those 4 melee dice, is really nice. Now, he moves a little slow, but he hits like a truck. So it's really nice to have him there. Plus, if I get a ton of roaches or something like that, that set trap ability could help me out a little bit. And it's a very minor consideration, but he was the one mouse in the party that didn't level up. So giving him another chance to get another skill wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I'm bringing Tilda just because, in virtue of the fact especially that Nez didn't level up and didn't grab that first aid ability, she's my only healing ability. Plus, again, I want to be hitting hard. I want to be able to move quickly to try to get to Lily quick, but Tilda is rolling 3 attack dice and 3 defense dice with her warding staff. So in addition to being a good healer, she's hitting as hard as Colin. The only drawback, of course, is not bringing Colin. I can't have that give order ability, which is pretty nice to have. And then, of course, not bringing Filch, my favorite mouse, limits my ability to manage the cheese wheel a little bit. But you have to leave somebody behind, and it would be great to be able to bring everybody. But of course, you're going to have to make some tough calls here. So this is a party I opted to go with. Tilda, so I have some healing, and she hits well. Nez, because he hits real hard, and I want to get him an ability, and I want to have him have the ability to open up that mousetrap. Lily's required, and Maginos just needs a little bit of experience, a little seasoning. As old as he is, he seems to be really inexperienced. So that's where we're at. In terms of our 2 new mice, which we haven't seen yet, Lily has a couple of special abilities, but neither of them actually plays a role in this chapter. The idea with lessons learned is she's not affected by mousetraps. Obviously, that doesn't allow her to ignore the special rules for this chapter. It just allows her to, I guess the story is she learns from her mistake in the story of this chapter, and going forward in any subsequent chapters, she's not going to be affected by mousetraps. Now, of course, once you free her and she's part of the party, you're not moving on, you're not going to any other tiles, you're not going to see any other mousetraps, so it's not going to be a factor. Similarly for Explorer, she's got a really nice skill here that anytime you go to a new tile for the first time, she gains 2 cheese. But of course, she's not moving on because the chapter here is ending when she gets rescued. Maginos has the draw power ability, and if you recall, any mice rolling cheese when attacking or defending get a cheese for every cheese they roll. Maginos, when attacking, receives 2 cheese for every cheese that he rolls. So he could potentially become a pretty nice little cheese factory, especially if he starts rolling more dice than just his native 2. And that can happen in a couple of ways, especially if he gets one of those nice items for him, like the Scorching Wand, which lets him roll his lore value, which is 3. But he also has some skills, which we'll take a look at, that allow him to roll additional dice. Now, of course, those have to be powered with cheese, but they very quickly become self-sustaining at that point. Maginos' staff is a +1 ranged weapon. Add 1 to his battle. That's why he's rolling 2. And then it has a special ability that allows him to use it as a blunt weapon. So he's looking for swords instead of bows. He's still rolling 2 dice. So think of that bow on the card changing to a sword. But he can opt to have that as a melee weapon as long as he's sharing a space with the enemy. And why would you do that? Because There are more swords than there are bows, so you're more likely to hit. Lily's bow is interesting in that it doesn't add a bonus, but she does have 2 battles, so she too is rolling 2 dice. However, the enemy cannot cheese the wheel when she fires at them, which is pretty cool. In fact, if they roll cheese, it's good for her because not only do they not cheese the wheel, she gets to take that cheese for herself. I'm not sure how that fluff text and the mechanics work out, but there it is. So that gives her an advantage in that when she's off there popping off shots at the roaches, she's not cheesing the wheel. So all we really have left to do, now that we've declared our party, and we'll set Colin and Filch off to the side, is get everybody positioned. Now the start spaces are outside of the tree on the courtyard. We'll get Lily situated where she needs to go. And she is placed all the way over here on this mousetrap. She also, if you recall, in the story setup it says that she gets 1 cheese and she gets the intense cowering special ability, or the search guard. So she's got that in her inventory. Okay, and what the intense cowering card does is it allows her to, when she is selected as a target, that minion cannot attack you because you're cowering. So it's kind of a get out of jail free card if she's about to get walloped by something nasty. I like to save it as much as I possibly can, but very often you don't have too much choice. You might have to use that pretty quick if the rolls go against her. Now that's our party setup. We still have to, however, pick some abilities. So let's start by taking a look at Lily here. Of course, first aid's an option for everybody. She's got Keen Eye, which is a search ability shared between her and Filch. I don't usually take this first off. Accurate Shot is a nice ability, and what it does is it allows her to spend 2 cheese and her target rolls 2 fewer dice when defending. That's very nice against particular enemies like spiders. However, she's going to be facing a lot of roaches. Spending 2 cheese to eliminate the 1 defense die from a roach isn't really a good idea. Preemptive Shot is really nice, actually. You may use this ability immediately after new minions are placed on the board. And minions get placed on her board quite a lot. So she gets free attacks for every cheese that she's rolling, that she spends whenever they're placed. So it's a pretty nice skill, actually, to take. It doesn't help her right off the bat, but it does let her take a bunch of free shots, and so I very often am tempted by taking that. Another option for her is Aimed Shot, and that allows her to add 1 to her battle during the attack, so she's rolling 3 dice instead of 2 for a cheese. But remember, with Preemptive Shot, which she's going to be able to do a lot, she's rolling 2 extra dice. Now, 3 versus 1 defense as opposed to 2 twice versus 1 defense each. You could make an argument that neither is necessarily much better than the other. But then the last option is Power Shot. She has to spend 3 cheese, and she doubles her battle during the attack. But remember, her battle is 2, so she would be rolling 4 attack dice at that point, which is pretty nice. But you're spending 3 cheese to effectively get +2 to your attack. So that's a little expensive if you really got to kill something. But again, I'm not doing that against roaches. I'd rather have something that you can fire off a little bit more often. So it's really, in my mind, it's between Aimed Shot and Preemptive Shot. And I'm going to go ahead and just take Preemptive Shot just because I find on this one it tends to help me just a little bit more, especially because the enemies cannot cheese the wheel against her. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. And then with Maginos, we have to make a similar decision. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make this quick. We cannot take Meeps. Invisibility is nice, but it's a nice supplement. My options really for the first tile here, or first chapter that I'm using him in, Chain Lightning is very nice. You spend 3 cheese and you can attack up to a number of minions equal to your current lore, which for him is 3 unless he gets an item that boosts it. So you spend 3 cheese and you can attack 3 enemies. The problem with this skill is it's very swingy, very unreliable. Your battle value is 3. In other words, you're rolling 3 action dice, but you're only rolling that attack once. So if you get a nice roll, it's affecting 3 enemies with a powerful attack. That could be very, very nice. But what if you roll no bows? Well, you just spent 3 cheese for absolutely nothing. So it's very swingy, very unreliable. Potential damage output is great, but it's tough. Mystic Blast, similarly, you can spend 2 cheese to attack all the figures in a chosen space. So you could attack, say, 3 roaches all at once for the cost of only 2 cheese, which is nice. But here, again, you're rolling the action dice only once. You have the benefit that Bow Star counts as 2 successes, but you're still only rolling 2 dice. And so it's nice, plus the enemies have to be all in one space, which very often is not the case. I think I'm going to go ahead and take a more steadily reliable skill in the form of Mystic Bolt. And this is basically spend 1 cheese, and you again are going to attack with a ranged attack equal to your lore. So effectively, that's a lot like Lily's aim shot, in that he's spending 1 cheese to roll 3 dice instead of 2, which is nice and handy. But the thing to remember about Maginos is if he's rolling 3 dice, he has a 1 in 3 chance of rolling a cheese each time. If he's rolling 3 dice, on average, he's probably rolling a cheese. Sorry, he has 1 in 6 chance. On average, he's rolling about 1 cheese every 2 attacks, and that 1 cheese is giving him 2 cheese because of his special ability. So Mystic Bolt is kind of a, you have to. It's not guaranteed because the dice are chancy, but on average, Mystic Bolt powers itself, which is kind of cool. So unless he goes through several attacks without rolling any cheese, he's potentially just firing Mystic Bolt every time, which is pretty nice. The problem is, of course, if he does run out of cheese, then he's back down to just 2 ranged attack dice. Still, it's nice to have, and I'll go ahead and grab that for him. Now, on to the setup of the chapter, and then we can get going. All right, so we're going to see a bunch of mechanics in this chapter, and it's going to show you how some of the split party mechanics work in general. So kind of pay attention to how some of the encounter things work as they go, because it will become relevant again later. But basically, we are going to start with 3 rats on the courtyard tile. And again, this is just declared in the chapter setup rules. And they're said to be placed normally, which means you spread them out among the minion entry spaces. And we are told to place 1 roach on Lily's tile. And it says, again, place it normally. So there are 3 mini entry spaces. It does not declare that you have to put it in the closest. It only says that for large enemies. Roaches are not large, so from the way I understand it, you can pick which mini entry space you want. You just have to spread them out. Since we're placing 1, I'll put them right here. The reason being that would allow Lily to have line of sight to that guy. Arguably, you have line of sight through these crystals to these spaces, but I don't like to even get into the arguments there unless I have to, so I'm just going to drop him here. He's also, I think, a little bit further away, if not at least equidistant, being here, so that's why I'm putting him there. And again, the rule is going to be that when we place additional enemies, we're going to place roaches over here. But the big concern right now is this initial starting tile isn't the greatest. We've got 3 rats with only 3 mice to face them. So we're already harder off, or worse off than we were on the first tile of the chapter 1, where we had 3 rats and 4 mice. We also have a special search, whether here, or here, the mushroom tiles, and those are going to allow us to find the catnip, which we definitely want to do before we leave. And then on top of that, just like at the end of chapter 1, we have the crow to worry about. So everybody here is rolling, potentially getting wounded. Now, potentially that could help us out a lot, because that crow could kill 2 or 3 rats for us, and we don't have to worry about it. But we're probably going to get wounded potentially badly on this first tile. Another good reason to be taking Tilda. So we have a lot to accomplish. There's going to be a lot of damage going on, and we're starting out uncovered, because that starting space is outside of the tree, so we are exposed to the crow. So let's go ahead and shuffle up our initiative, and it looks like the roach is going first. Now notice Lily, even though she has that special ability, she starts out in a tile, but she doesn't get cheese from her special ability starting out on that tile. Neither, I don't think, can she use preemptive attack from the initial placement. I guess you can make a case for it, because the special ability just says basically, it says you use this ability immediately after new minions are placed on the board. Well, we just placed minions on the board, but I kind of feel like this initial setup is before the game starts. So I don't usually give her that preemptive shot on the first tile. It's kind of a good idea to save cheese anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and move the roach. See how far he can move. It's only 1 space, so that was a little bit lucky there. And we're now on to Maginos. Alright, so what does Maginos want to do? First he has to roll his movement. He rolled a 3, which is good. That means he is not going to get hit by the crow. But I think we want to kind of continue to stay away from the rats as much as we can. And so I think what he might want to do, just to kind of minimize damage here, what I think I might want to do with all of these guys, depending on who's doing what. Well, let's see who he kills first. I'm going to fire at one of the closest rats. This guy's 1, 2, 3 away, 1, 2, 3 away, 1, 2, 3, 4 away. This one doesn't look to me like they're adjacent. It looks like there's too much space there. So this guy's at least 4 away, so either one of these is 3 away, so I'll fire at one of these guys. I'll just fire at 38 here. And he doesn't start with any cheese, so he can't use that initial ability, so he's just going to roll his 2 ranged dice, hoping for bows. And he didn't get a bow, but he did roll a cheese, which means he gains 2 cheese because he was rolling that for attack. So he didn't hit anything, but he gained a couple of cheese, which is nice. Now, he wasn't wounded, but he didn't kill anything either. So these rats are going to be closing on us pretty quick. I think we're going to be out here for a while. Rather than tempt fate with the crow, I'm going to have him fall back onto the tree. And I think I'm going to do that with the rest of the party too. And I'm going to let those rats try to close with us, potentially get killed as they do so. Tilda, now, she doesn't have any ranged options, but she still has to start with a movement roll. I'm going to have her fall back as well. And I'm going to have her roll a search because I don't think she's got any other options. She did find something, so let's see what we got. The thimble helm. That's actually interesting because I actually like that a lot better for Nez. Now, Nez does have a defense item, and of course, this is taking up a head slot rather than the body slot, so he can actually wear these both as it happens right now. So she's going to trade that over to him. Now, he's not going to benefit before the rats go because he hasn't been able to equip it yet, but I'm going to give him the thimble helm in addition to the walnut shell breastplate, because that'll allow him to be rolling 3 defense for the rest of this chapter. And then on top of that, when we go to the next chapter, I think I'm going to keep the thimble helm rather than the walnut shell breastplate, because the special ability on the helm is that when he searches and finds something, he can ignore treachery cards. Those bad cards that show up, he can just ignore the negative effects of those, which is very, very nice. In fact, he can actually discard that and draw again. So he's guaranteed to only find good stuff, basically. And I find that to be more useful than that simple slight boost to getting out of water. So that's a very nice item to draw. Tilda's turn is over, and it's now the rat's turn. Let's see what happens to them. This guy here rolls 3, so he can get to Nez and attack. He does roll 2 hits. Nez rolls his 2 defense dice. Doesn't block anything, and so he has taken 2 wounds. So that is not a good start here. This rat warrior can also roll his movement. Okay, a little bit luckier there. He is killed by the crow. This rat warrior can roll his movement. He rolls a 1, and therefore he is killed by the crow. Okay, so we started out, I was a little scared because if this guy had been able to lay 1 wound on him, and then Nez, before his turn even begins, would have to roll to be damaged by the crow, he's still going to have to face that. But at least the crow, because Nez has 4 hit points, is not going to kill Nez outright. But that did really suck, getting 2 wounds right off the bat. The rats are now done, having lost 2 of their number, and it is now Nez's turn. Nez's movement, he did roll a 1, so he does take a wound, and so those cheese that Maginos rolled, I think, are going to have to go towards his towards getting healed. Fortunately, we have Tilda along, and that case in point, it's really good to have Tilda here. I always second guess myself, but damn, I'm glad I brought her. Nez, before he falls back, is going to swing at this guy. He is swinging for 4 attack. He not only gains a cheese, which is handy, but he gained 3 hits, and so this guy's definitely going to get killed. He did cheese the wheel doing it, and that is a little unfortunate because we are going to be cheesing the wheel as we linger on this tile. But Nez might want to just stay out here. Let me think. Okay, the rat warriors are gone. Actually, no, I take that back. This is actually one of the rules that's significant here. The rule for adding cheese to the wheel when you come to the end of initiative is that happens when there are no enemies on the initiative track. So even though Lily is not a member of the party, there are enemies on the initiative track, and as a result, we are actually not forced to be moving on, on the danger of cheesing the wheel. We do still want to move on so that Lily doesn't get hammered, but we're not going to be adding cheese to the wheel just because there are no enemies on this tile. It's not about the tile, it's about the initiative track. So I think I still want to hurry, but because Tilda is going to be healing Nez next time out, I'm actually going to move him forward. He can only move 2 spaces. He attacked so he can't search, but I want him to be close to the exit area so that next turn he can be guaranteed to get us out of here. And that is his turn. And before he rolls to worry about the crow, Tilda's going to be able to heal him. So I don't have to worry about him dying from that. We come now to Lily. And Lily is just going to take a shot at that roach and see if she can take him out. She misses entirely, so he doesn't roll any defense, which actually is bad for her because if he did roll defense, it might help her. But this tends to be how it goes for me with Lily. And that's always why this chapter is rough for me. I have a really hard time rolling bows with Lily for some reason. Okay, it is the roach's turn. We'll see how far he can move. He can now move 2. He still hasn't closed with her. So that's slightly good news. We come now then to Maginos. Alright, Maginos is going to, first of all, give his cheese to Tilda so that she can go and heal Nez later, and then he is going to see how far he can move, and he's just going to get to that same spot and try to find the catnip. He does find it. Excellent. So that means we don't have to linger here. On Nez's turn, he's going to be able to get us out of here, and he'll either have 1 or 2 wounds on him when he does so. Okay, so we didn't put much cheese on the wheel. We did find a nice item. We did get the catnip, and all we suffered was basically a couple of wounds, and we don't have much cheese in the party, but that's not too bad for this tile. Now she can only move 3, but that's fine. She'll just share that space and spend her 2 cheese to do major heal on Nez to take away 2 of his 3 wounds. And then we come to Nez, who now has to roll versus the crow. He did not get hurt by the crow. He moves here and moves us on to the next to the flip space, which means we now flip the tile. And we are now here on the bottom level. Now here's where things get a little bit dicier for Lily, because we are now going to draw an encounter card, and because there are enemies on the track, the enemies are going down to the bottom of the initiative order. Now Lily's going to be able to go first, but they're going to be able to go before any of my party goes, and that's just kind of the way it goes. But let's see what we get for our encounter. Alright, we're still on page 1, so we got 3 rats. And again, the rule is if you're placing small enemies, you place 1 fewer of them, and instead you place a roach on Lily's tile in its stead. If you get a large enemy like a spider or centipede, you still place them, and you place a roach on Lily's tile. So we are only placing 2 rats, which is not too bad. So let's go ahead and put them into the initiative, and we can place them wherever we want. So I'm going to make 1 really far away, and 1 kind of has to be a little closer. I think these are equidistant. There's no mouse traps, so we ignore the X's here. And we'll throw down another roach onto Lily's tile. And now, with that placement, Lily can choose to fire off her preemptive shot. And it's a little risky because she doesn't have any cheese accrued to her yet, but we'll go ahead and see if we can do that. So we've got to spend her cheese, and then she can just make an attack, and it's against the minion that you're facing, I believe. Let me double check the wording on this. Choose a minion that was just placed, and you can make 1 ranged attack. So she's going to fire that off. And okay, well, she didn't hit, but she did roll 2 cheese, which, because these are not greedy, fortunately, just basically give her extra hit points, which is handy. So in virtue of doing that, she added a cheese, which is, I guess, okay, although it'd be nice to be able to kill something. All right, coming back now, we have completed Nez's turn because he moved and he explored, but it's still technically his turn, and I think he still wants to equip that thimble helm that he got. And it is now, it's actually now Lily's turn. So we can go back to Lily, and she can take another shot. This is just her regular turn, so she's going to shoot now at Roach 45, the close one, see if she can take him out. So let's see if she can actually roll a bow for once. Okay, so she added a cheese, and she rolled a hit. Now, importantly, the bow star, unlike Filch, that was a special ability for Filch, so it's not for all ranged attacks. So this is just a regular bow. It's 1 old hit, and the Roach is going to roll his defense. All right, so I've been saving the game periodically, so in case I have like a coughing fit or something, I've been stopping the video and saving the game, so I don't have to like re-record for an hour straight or anything. And I don't know, something happened where I had a little glitch, so I was able to save the game, but none of the chat got cleared in the process. So that's why all that stuff vanished. But if you recall, Lily had just rolled a cheese and attack and 1 hit. And I don't remember if I gave her cheese or not. I know that she had 2 cheese from a previous roll. She does have 3 cheese now, so it looks like I gave her cheese. but the roach needs to defend. He's only rolling 1 die to defend, so we'll see if he does that. He does not, so she is able to kill that 1 roach, which is good news for her because she's got a bit of a cushion with the only other enemy on the tile. And we come now to the rat's turn. And the rats are such that one's pretty far away. We'll just roll him real quick. He's only moving 1 space, so he's not going anywhere fast. And then this guy is moving 2. He also cannot quite reach us, so we got kind of lucky there. It is now the roach's turn. So the roach over with Lily can move only 1 space. And then we come to Maginos. All right, what's Maginos going to do? Maginos is going to try to kill somebody, but we don't have a lot of cheese rolling around, and Nez does have a wound, so I think he's going to simply make a regular attack, especially with the other rat being far away. Yeah, I think we're just going to do a regular attack. By the way, I checked. There's no special rules or anything for this particular tile. So there's nothing to be aware of here. There's no special searches or anything on this tile. So I think he's going to make a single attack. And this is just his regular 2 ranged attack dice. He's not using a special skill. And he's missing completely, so that was useless. He can move 3. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fall back away from the rats, try to keep myself away from them. And Tilda can, let's see, if we go up here next to this guy and kill him, this guy's 1, 2, 3 away. He cannot reach us if we're here. So maybe I didn't need to fall back quite so far with Maginos. But he's safe from this guy coming around that way too. So I think between Nez and Tilda, we should have a pretty good chance of taking this guy out. So I think she's just going to move here. She can't fail to move 1. And she's going to roll her 3 melee attack, scoring 2 hits. The rat rolls only 1 block, no cheese to the wheel, and he is taken out. So that was nice. Tilda's turn is over. Nez is not going to go very far, I don't think. I'll see how far he can go. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this rat, when he moves, is going to move towards the mouse with the highest initiative. That would be Maginos. So I'm going to have Nez, who's rolling 3 defense. And remember, Maginos is on top of everything else. He's really fragile because he's only rolling 1 defense. So I think Nez is going to come over here, stay far enough away that the rat can't reach us, but maybe hope to provide a little cover for Maginos later, and then he's just going to search because he has nothing else to do. Didn't find anything, unfortunately. Let's see what Lily can do against this roach over here. She rolled 1 hit, and the roach did not defend. So the roaches are actually gone completely, which is nice for Lily, and that's my chief concern right here, because Lily getting swarmed is really the big determining factor in this chapter, more so than anything else. But it does do a couple of things, because that is going to clear all the enemies from initiative until I trigger a surge or draw a new encounter card or something like that. But now we come to the rats. Oh, you know what? It doesn't matter. I should have moved them up after their last turn. It didn't affect anything. But they would go right before Lily. It's not going to change what Lily does, but he would have gone right before her and moved only the 1 space. Okay, and then we had Lily's turn. Then we come around to Maginos. And we're just gonna close with this rat and try to get out of this this tile here as quick as we can. So he's gonna move, and he's gonna try to stay further away from the rat than somebody with a better defense, and roll his 2 attack. And he got 1 hit, which is not a lot, but potentially kills the rat. And it did in fact kill the rat. Go Maginos. Okay. So we have now taken all the enemies off of the initiative track. We're not going to be able to get out of here before we cheese the wheel, but we only have one slice on there right now, so we're not worried about that. And it's going to allow Tilda and Nez. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, she's one short. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Gives them a couple more search opportunities and see what they can get. Determination. Play this card when the hourglass moves on the chapter track. Immediately add 2 cheese to each mouse's stash. So I'm going to definitely keep that. Basically, the next time we move the hourglass, which is eventually going to happen, I'm going to gain 8 cheese to the party. Now it says each mouse's stash. I would say that probably applies only to the party members and therefore will not help Lily. You might make a different call. It would be very nice for Lily, but I don't think, unfortunately, that she gets the effect of that. Now Nez, his movement is only 3. 1, 2, and 3. And he's also going to search. He's also going to find something. And it is a cheese cache. Cool. Each mouse on the same tile. This is very explicit. Lily's not on this tile. But these guys can all get a cheese, which is handy, especially with a wounded Nez. And I like having that little buffer of cheese because Maginos I like to be able to allow to start fueling that cheese-making engine that he is. We come to Lily, and Lily can't really do anything. She's got no enemies to fight. There's a rule that says she can't move and she can't search. So she's just kind of going to weep softly to herself. We come then to Maginos. In virtue of coming around with no enemies on the track, we are going to add a cheese to the wheel. And Maginos can move us on, but so can Tilda and Nez. They've got all the time in the world to do that. When we come here, we're going to reshuffle initiative. So there's really no advantage to doing anything other than searching with Maginos, although we didn't find anything. Do I want to spend 2 cheese to heal Nez because he's rolling 3 defense dice? I don't think I do. I don't have quite enough cheese that I'm going to be that cavalier about it, so I'm just going to go ahead and move us on to the next tile. Clear our search markers. And we are now going to draw a new encounter card, but there are some special rules for this tile here, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. Okay, so we're in the dining hall tunnels, and there are no special rules in terms of the enemies or the setup, so we're going to have to draw an encounter card. But in addition to the X's and all the mini and entry spaces and everything, we have the fact that we have the optional side plot. As we've noted, we can choose to go up to get the dinner fork from the dining hall tunnels. It's not looking like we might need to, and there's really no benefit to doing so unless you just want to fight Brodie or something. I mean, you might be able to find some extra gear. It would give me some additional chances to find something for Maginos to carry around with him. You can get the Whisker Froth elixir up there, so it's not like the worst thing. Plus, I mean, it's a tutorial. Maybe I do want to go up there just to show you what goes on when Brodie shows up. So I'm thinking I'll probably do that just for poops and giggles. But normally at this point in the game, I would probably just dive forward and say, let's go save Lily. We have Nez, and we don't need to worry about it. But I'll probably do it just to show you. That said, there's also a special search, and I love the little touches in this game. You got a grape here, right? And the grape is great for when you're fighting roaches and everything, but to just have these little touches. You found the grape at the bottom of the ladder leading up to the dining hall. So what happened? Somebody was eating dinner and dropped a grape, and it rolled down a hole into like the tunnels under the castle. Like it slipped through a hole in the flagstones. And so there's a grape in the basement. It's cool. I love the way they put this together. All right, so that's the rules. There's a special search for the grape, and we can opt to go up into the dining hall. All right, so we're going to go ahead and draw an encounter card for this tile and see what we're facing. And we are still on page 1, So we are getting 4 roaches. It is an ambush card. The surge is 2 rats. And in virtue of it being 4 roaches, we're placing 3 roaches. And then we are placing 1 on Lily's tile. So we'll go ahead and add the roaches. Fortunately, they're not greedy roaches, which is a very good thing. And we'll go ahead and drop 1 there. We'll put 1 here and 1 here. Now again, it says you're supposed to divvy up the enemies among the minion entry spaces. In many games, your party fills up a space, and therefore it's not a free place to put an enemy. But there is a minion entry space here where my mice reside, and it is not full because I only have 3 mice. So I believe I am required to put a roach right here and smack in the middle of my party. So I've got only 1 that's far away. But remember, we have a grape here that can help us out. And importantly, it's a party item. One of the effects of Lily not being a member of the party is, even though she could potentially be swarmed by roaches at this point in the game, depending on how things have gone, she could have 3 or 4 roaches on her tile with her if she's not shooting them well, and be up a creek. Unfortunately, she can't drop the grape, even if you find it. And that's because she's not a member of the party, and therefore doesn't have access to the party items. But be that as it may, in virtue of dropping all this down, a couple of things happen. First of all, we're going to shuffle initiative. Lily's going first. She only has the 1 enemy, but she has 3 cheese. So the question would be, does she want to fire off preemptive shot against that roach when he is first put down there? And I think I'm going to say no to that. It might be a little bit risky, but he's far enough away that he can't reach her. So she's going to have 2 attacks guaranteed before he can reach her. So the odds of her being able to kill him are pretty good, especially if he rolls low. So she's not too worried. If there are a couple of roaches here, I would definitely do it. But I think she's not going to do that. So I'm not going to fire off preemptive shot. She's just going to take her turn. And so we'll go ahead and roll her attack. She rolls 2 hits, so that's automatically a killed roach. He can't cheese the wheel. He just blocks 1. Doesn't give her any cheese, but she's taken him out. So she's, once again, safe and sound, which is pretty cool. And that's Lily's turn. We come now to Nez, and I think what Nez wants to do is squish a roach. This roach is not going to be able to fail to reach us. Nez, does he have any cheese? He's got 2 cheese on him. So he's not worried about getting hit by one of these guys. This guy can move 1, 2, 3. So I think I want to just move over here so that he can swing for 4 damage rather than for 3. And squish this roach that's in our space. And then Maginos will try to kill this guy. And if he's able to, then we're all set for the round. So let's just see what happens here. He's rolling 4. He gains a cheese, but only 1 hit. And he did not defend, so that roach did in fact get squished, which is very nice. That's Nez's turn. Maginos now is going to, let's see. Yep, I think he's going to snag a cheese from Nez. He already has 1, but I want him, he's going to be the one that gets attacked. So I want him to have a little bit of a buffer. So he's going to go to Nez, and he's going to grab 2 cheese. Because I want him to have 3, so that he can spend 1 and still have cheese as a buffer versus wounds against that roach. Then he's going to spend 1 cheese to use his Mystic Bolt, and that allows him to attack with 3 dice versus that roach. And there you go. That's why you add dice. He got 2 hits, guaranteed kill on that roach, plus he gains 2 cheese in virtue of rolling 1 on an attack. Well, the only question is, did he cheese the wheel trying to save himself? He did not. So, once again, luck is fairly well with us, actually, thus far. So, that's pretty cool. Maginos, does he want to move? Let's see, this guy can go 1, 2, 3. Could go 1, 2, 3. So I don't want to go any further than this right now. That roach is the only enemy we have to deal with. How far can he move? 3 spaces. So he's right there trying to get us. But now Tilda can come up here and swing away. So she's going to see how far she can move. She can go here. And she's going to try to clobber him. She only gained 2 cheese and didn't hit. Interesting. Okay. Lily doesn't do anything. Nez is going to... You know what? Because he's not greedy and because we now have an abundance of cheese, rather than add cheese to the wheel, although he might do that when he attacks us, but rather than guaranteed cheese the wheel, because I think I do want to find that grape just in case. I don't remember actually if there's a special rule for the special setup for that dining room. No, it's a so you would draw an encounter card. There's a special surge for the dining hall, but there's no special setup. So as a result, I would draw an encounter card. So I might have roaches up there. I'd kind of like to get that grape if I can, but I guess it's not super necessary because when I come back down here, there won't be an encounter. When I come here, it's a special setup with no roaches. So she's probably only going to be facing 1, maybe 2 roaches, depending. So yeah, Nez is just going to come here and clobber. 3 hits, that's a dead roach. He didn't cheese the wheel. I swear, last time I played this, I lost because in addition to having the greedy roaches, they were also rolling cheese like nobody's business. So my time just ran out real fast. I think it was on page 3. By the time I got to the second tile, it was ridiculous. Well, you know, sometimes that happens. But that is all the roaches. They are gone. And it's Maginos' turn. He's going to try to find that grape for us. And then, excuse me. And then Tilda will move us on. He finds the grape. Unless I want to draw a search card instead. But I think I'll just grab that grape just to be on the safe side. So go ahead and grab the grape, one of the grapes. And we'll put it in the party stash. And voila, there we have it. And again, this you view page 19 of the rulebook for rules on how the grape works. But if you have the dinner fork, you can use it as a catapult ranged attack. It's kind of funny. You know, you put it on the fork, you hop on the end of the fork, and it flings the grape. Right? It's pretty cool. But you know, usually you just use it as roach bait. You drop it, and then some reason I guess they gorge themselves so much that they're out of the fight. But yeah, the roaches move towards the grape and then are defeated the round that they reach it. So you could potentially take out a bunch of roaches by just dropping the grape on the table. It's kind of cool. That's Maginos' turn. It's now Tilda's turn. I'm going to note right now that only Maginos on this tile has searched successfully. So if I come back, Nez and Tilda are going to still be able to search on this tile. But I'm going to clear the search markers because Tilda is going to move us onto the dining hall as promised. We are going to place ourselves on the flip space because we came in via the flip. And we have now a couple of things. First of all, the setup for this tile is going to declare the broken wine bottle and the table as special search spaces. So this wine bottle here is a place where I can get the Whisker Froth Elixir, which is a healing item, which is very handy. And up here is where we get the dinner fork. Now, if we have for instance, the fish hook and thread, if we had found it by searching, because it is in the search deck, so you can stumble across it, you can get up there real quick by just dropping it down onto the table. But the normal way you're going to get up here is you're going to have to go onto the table, and then you're going to have to go up onto the table from the chair. You go onto the chair, onto the table. The yellow lines, when you move against the arrow, you see how there's yellow lines around here, wherever the arrows are pointing. If you go against that arrow, it costs you 3 movement. If you go with the arrow, it's only 1. So in other words, it's real easy to clamber down 1, 2, but it's going to cost you 3 and another 3 to get up onto the table. So a couple of things that would be good to have here would be teleport, levitate, or the fish hook, because you're going to be able to get up there real quick. This is also one of those special spaces where you can have any number of enemies, and if you sometimes have special setups, then the bad guys are going up there too. Importantly, that is a minion entry space, so we need to take a look at what our encounter card is, and potentially we're going to have some enemies up there. Hopefully we're not getting any elite rats, but we'll see what it is. We're still on page 1, so let's go ahead and clear the chat, get all that out of the way, and draw our encounter card. Uh-oh. Okay, well, we've got 5 greedy roaches, which means we are placing 4 greedy roaches on this tile, and we've got 1 greedy roach that is going to appear on Lily's tile. This could potentially get ugly because, again, we do have Brodie as our special surge on this tile. Now, there's good and bad to that. We'll get into it if it appears, but we're probably going to trigger a surge on this tile, I'm thinking. Now, the good news is we have the catnip, but again, when Brodie drops in, he's got a couple of initiative cards, so he's probably got a good chance of going at least once before one of our mice are able to take a turn and hopefully take him out. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But that is not the enemy you want to be facing when you are looking at a Brodie surge. But it is what it is. Okay, so we got a shuffle initiative because there were no enemies when we placed the enemies on the track. Lily is going first, but on top of that, because that's a greedy roach, I do not want her facing greedy roaches. I don't want her even having cheese when she's facing greedy roaches. So she is most definitely going to fire off preemptive strike. So we'll go ahead and manage our cheese here and see what we can do. Hopefully she gets lucky here. She does add a cheese, which I'm not sure is a good thing. Did I just add cheese? I think I should have taken one away and then I just gained it back, so she's at 3. She didn't get any hits, so he doesn't even roll defense, and that was her preemptive strike. So neither of her preemptive strikes, I think, have gone well for her. Still a good decision to take it, I think, but not working out. Still, she's going first, and I like the fact that I've got 2 of my mice going before the roaches in the other room, which is very handy. But Lily, on her turn, is just going to shoot again. And she whiffs once again. I guess the good news is that roach can't reach her on turn 1, but man, she is not firing well. All right, Tilda, let's see if you can do any better. We do want to get up onto there and get that fork. And spaces that are separated by a red line are not considered adjacent, but I believe spaces that are where you're crossing a yellow line are considered adjacent. But I'm going to dive into the rulebook real quick and double check that before I make a turn. Yeah, so the rulebook was very kind to even italicize this, so we were able to find it really quickly. Yellow lines, it explicitly says that spaces divided by a yellow line are considered adjacent to one another. Spaces divided by a red line are not considered adjacent. Boom, there you go. Right, so I'm going to be able to move Tilda and Nez. This roach probably is not going to be able to do much to reach us. We'll have to see. But I think I want Tilda and Nez to come after this guy and then this guy, and hopefully this guy rolls a 1 or a 2 and can't reach us. I guess if he rolls a 2 he can. Well, we'll just have to see. But this guy's definitely going to be able to reach somebody because I've only got, I mean, Maginus is going to be stuck here. Before I start moving mice around, I might want to consider, just because of the cheese going onto the wheel issue, I might want to consider the fact that Maginus is most likely going to get attacked. I might want to strip him of his cheese. Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking. Maginus is going to be here. This guy can't fail to reach that space, so I know this guy's going to attack somebody. This guy might fail to attack somebody. This guy might fail to attack somebody. This guy can't fail to attack somebody. So these are the two I'm going to target with the two mice that are going to be able to go before the roaches go. I think I'm going to move Tilda because she has better movement up this way. Nez can fail because if Nez rolls a 1 plus his 1, it's only 2. That leaves him with not enough movement to get up. So I'm going to move Tilda up here. She can't fail that. She can't get 6 though, so she's only going to move onto the chair. She's then going to try to kill that guy. If she succeeds, then I might move Nez back here to attack this guy. In which case, Maginus or Tilda are going to be attacked, so I might want to just pile all my cheese onto Nez, because I'd rather be taking wounds than adding cheese to the wheel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Nez all of Tilda's cheese for now. Then she's going to, I guess I'll roll her move, but it doesn't matter. She's going to move here and she's going to try to kill that roach. She gained a cheese, which I'm not happy about actually. And then I should have waited to trade after she moved. That's unfortunate. Oh well. The roach, we'll see if he... Okay, now this is not on Lily's tile, so this roach did cheese the wheel in his dying breath. So she did take the roach out, which is good, but that was bad for the wheel. But what are you going to do? You can only play the odds. You can't guarantee a win. Nez is just going to move here and try to kill that roach. He does so. And that roach also cheeses the wheel. I swear, I get greedy roaches and boom, it's just nothing but cheese. All right. And then he's going to steal, let's see, he's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I guess, yeah, so this guy is going to go for Tilda because she's only 2 away. This guy, 1, 2, 3. I think he could get here and Maginus. So this guy would reach Maginus. This guy would reach Tilda. So I guess I can't do anything about Tilda's cheese, but I can still trade with Maginus and steal his cheese to hopefully improve our odds of not cheesing the wheel. Again, I'm not super worried about Brodie, but if I can avoid him, I'd like to. Okay, it's now the greedy roach's turn. How far can this guy move? 3. So he goes on to Tilda's space, rolls his 2 attack, cheeses the wheel in attacking, and rolls a hit. Tilda does get to roll 3 defense, but doesn't block, and therefore, Bob's your uncle. We have added Brodie, unfortunately, to the game. Alright, so that goes up to 6 and then back down to 0. We advance to page 2 in virtue of the surge. And we are now adding Brodie. So let's take a look at Brodie. There's no other effects from that. That was really horrible. But yeah, that immediately triggers the surge, so we'll resolve the surge and then we'll come back. Okay, so the first thing to note about Brodie is that he is a boss and he has 2 initiative cards. When you are dealing with Brodie, you are going to use both. Okay, So there's a little rule on page 7 that you're going to want to be aware of, and it says that if a boss minion has more than one initiative card, Vanestra, by the way, has 4, but whether it's Brodie or Vanestra, you are always going to randomly choose 2 of those initiative cards to be added to the initiative track. That boss is then going to take a turn for each initiative card that they have on that track. If there are already minions on the track, which there are for us, then adding the boss minion has multiple initiative cards. You place both cards at the bottom of the initiative track as usual, and then you follow the ambush rules for the first of those 2 initiative cards. So you put both of them at the bottom, and the top one you then ambush up as a way of scattering the enemies. Now this is partly good and partly bad, because depending on where you are in the initiative, the first card is potentially going to be acting sooner. But if you were low in the initiative when that was added, potentially that boss card is actually going to be added much. It might be moving up past the current initiative, and you're going to have to go all the way around again before you hit it. So potentially this is going to help you. The other rule with Brodie is that, of course, he does have those 2 initiative cards, and because his actions on those cards are a little involved, they're not, printed in full on those cards. I think it just references you to page 16, where the 2 actions that he can take are outlined. So I'll just go over them here while we're in the rulebook. The first is Brodie Pounces, and basically when Brodie Pounces, choose the space on Brodie's room tile that has the most figures on it, minions included, and move Brodie to that space. If more than one space has an equal number of figures on it, he will pounce on the space that contains the figure whose initiative card is highest on the initiative track. Roll once for the Pounces initiative card. Each figure in that space must defend against the same attack separately. Brodie will pounce on the space he is already in if it contains the most figures on, or if no other spaces have figures on them. Okay, so in other words, just take his token and put him wherever, whichever space has the most, with initiative breaking the tie. He then basically attacks, and it's a little bit like those Maginot attacks. He rolls one attack, could be good, could be bad, and that applies to everybody in that space. They're all attacked, friend and foe alike. So he could wind up taking out a bunch of enemies and doing you a favor. Brodie Chases works a little bit differently, tends to be a little bit worse for you. When Brodie chases, roll 2 action dice and total the numbers. The roll is how far Brodie is moving. So it's between 2 and 6 spaces. And he's going to move along the shortest path to the closest mouse that is not already on his space. If 2 or more mice are equal distance away, he'll move to the one highest in initiative. And then if there are multiple shortest paths, the players can decide. If all active mice are on the same space as Brodie when he starts his chase, he won't move at all. If Brodie has any movement points left after reaching the closest mouse, continue moving Brodie toward the next closest mouse, following all the rules above. Once Brodie is done moving, roll a number of action dice equal to the battle value on his initiative card, and all figures that are on spaces that he moved along during his turn, including the one he started in and the one that he ended in, are all affected by the attack. Only one attack roll is made, but it affects all figures, and they're all defending separately. Okay, and then before we bounce back to the map and show you how all that's going to work, the other important rule is he doesn't have a figure, he just has a big, large size token, so I think he counts as a large minion, but he does not, in fact, fill the space. He doesn't take up any space. So in fact, up to 4 small figures or a large figure can be in the same space as Brodie. So you would just, at table, you'd have the token on the map and the figures on top of the token. And then finally, very importantly, when attacking or defending with Brodie, any cheese rolled is not added to the minion wheel. So Brodie does not cheese the wheel in any way, shape, or form, which is very nice. Coming back to the map here, here's how this is going to work. Because we do have enemies on the initiative track, and because we are adding 2 initiative cards. I'm going to add each to the initiative. I'm actually going to randomly pick. So I'll call that 2, and if I get roll a 3, I'll re-roll. Come on. I rolled a 1. Okay, so this one's first. So add that to initiative, then I add that to the initiative, and then I'm going to, for that first one, I'm going to roll a die and follow the ambush rules and move him up that number of spaces. Only 1, so he moves up like that. Okay, that's relatively bad news, because what that means is when the roaches finish their turn, Brodie is going to go before Maginot can go. And that means we're going to have to deal with Brodie pounces before anything else happens. That's not the best thing ever. But it is what it is. Now, where is Brodie? Well, you have the token that you put down on the map, and you place it like a large minion. So you choose between the minion entry spaces that are closest, that are open, and that are closest to the mice. Now, because he doesn't take up space, all of them would be open. There are 2 that are closest. Now, it doesn't say, I don't think, it doesn't list initiative as a tiebreaker, but I don't think it really matters too much because Brodie's going to pounce on this space on his turn anyway. So we're going to go ahead and just drop him right here, and he's right there on top of the table. So Brodie was sleeping up there amongst the plates, and the noise roused him. When the mice started scurrying around fighting roaches, he looks around and says, "Ooh, yummy mice. Let's go eat some." All right, so that's where we are, and we'll show you how the mechanics work on the different cards, and then we'll dive in. But first things first, we've got to finish the roach's turn. We have 1 more roach to move. Let's see how far he can go. Right, so he's going to roll his movement. He can only move 1 space, so he'll move up, trying to get up here somewhere. And that is not actually the greedy roach's turn, because this guy can also move. He can also only move 1. All right. That is all the greedy roaches. We now come to Brodie pounces, which means what he's going to do is he's going to move to the space that has... I'm going to send him to the back so we can see. Okay, he moves to the space that has the most figures in it. The good news is we were scattered, so he's only going to be attacking Tilda, and he's going to be attacking the greedy roach. Now, how many dice does he roll? That's on the initiative card. You'll also note that each initiative card only has 1 heart on it. Okay, so the sort of nice thing about this is that when you come down here, Brodie pounces as a melee battle of 3 and a defense of 4. Same thing for Brodie chases. Now they each have only 1 hit point. So the good news is you only have to get 1 wound on each one of those cards. You remove one of the cards, right? You still have to attack him. You still have to reckon with the figure or the token. So you have to be next to him to attack him from melee and so forth. But when you attack the token, you can choose which card you're taking off if you hit it. So let's say Maginot was just attacking, he'd be probably going after the Brodie chases card in the hopes of killing that card so that that would be taken off, and then that turn wouldn't actually accrue to Brodie. When both of the cards are defeated, then Brodie's token is removed. Okay. The problem is he's rolling 4 defense and 3 attack. Now, again, all that matters right now is his defense. The only saving grace here is he is not cheesing the wheel with any of this. But he's doing a 3 attack, melee attack against both the roach and Tilda. The roach is almost certainly gonna die here. We're just going to have to see how badly Tilda is hurt. All right, so he rolls 3 attack. He gets 2 hits. The roach is guaranteed to die. Does he cheese the wheel? He does not. So that kills the roach. And then Tilda is facing the 2 attacks. She does get 3 defense dice, and she adds a cheese and takes a wound, which is okay. Not the worst thing in the world. In fact, that cheese is going to offset the wound that she just take for the most part. So she's all right. She managed to survive Brodie. Now, the good news is Maginot is next to Brodie, and therefore he can use that catnip card. I should have put it in the party stash. So it's a party item. So this actually goes into the party stash. So it's not just Maginos is the only one who could use it. But a mouse that is in or adjacent to Brodie may discard the catnip token from the party stash to immediately defeat Brodie. Now, a couple of things are going to happen here. First of all, he doesn't have to attack, and he doesn't have to choose which card. He's just next to him, and it doesn't actually. Let me look at that again, but I don't say it even. It doesn't even list it as an action. You can discard to immediately defeat Brodie, so it doesn't even take up an action. Therefore, it's a free action. So he's adjacent to Brodie, doesn't have to move, doesn't have to do anything. He is just going to basically, I'm just going to discard that search card, use up the catnip, and Brodie's defeated. Okay, so boom, just like that, Brodie's gone. Now, before we do that, I just want to show you how Brodie chases would have worked had that been the card up here, just so you can see the mechanics there. Again, what would happen there is Brodie would roll 2 dice. So suppose he took a turn. Suppose Maginos didn't have catnip and couldn't take him out. Well, he rolled a 4, so he would move up to 4 spaces, chasing mice around. So he's going to move from Tilda's space to Maginos' space to Nez's space, and then stop. Had there been any minions in any of those spaces, they would be attacked too, but basically, again, Brodie would roll 3 attack dice, and that attack would affect all of them, so they would all then have to defend against those 2 hits. And again, that cheese would not go on the wheel because Brodie doesn't cheese the wheel. Okay, so this chapter, Brodie's not too scary because we do have that catnip item. If you can get lucky and draw the catnip item in other later chapters, it's also a nice little thing to get, because Brodie is scary otherwise. He only has 1 hit point on each of those cards, but you have to take out each of those cards. Those cards they can pack a real wallop, and on top of that, he's rolling 4 defense dice, so he's really hard to hit. Generally speaking, only some of your big heavy hitters like Nez maybe have even a somewhat decent chance of taking out one of those cards. But because we did have catnip, we can get rid of Brodie. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is that's a special surge on this tile. So unless I get out of here quick, now there's no cheese on the wheel, thank goodness, but if I trigger another surge somehow, Brodie comes back. And I can't leave the tile until Brodie's defeated again. So I would face an actual fight with Brodie if things go south on me here. So I definitely want to keep an eye on that. But it is now Maginos' turn, and I definitely want to get that greedy roach the heck out of my combat. So I am going to roll my move. I can get up onto the chair. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to fire at that roach. Now, again, you can reckon with whether or not you think the chair is blocking line of sight, etc. But it's from the center of that tile to the center of this tile. You know, does the table get in the way? Well, the seat of the chair should be below the table. So I'm going to say he's able to fire under the table, over the edge of that chair, past that chair, and hit that roach. That seems fine to me. So I'm going to go ahead and just roll his attack. And I'm going to check out the cheese situation here. Tilda has 2 cheese. I could have grabbed cheese from Nez before moving. I didn't think to do it. So I'm just going to grab 1 cheese from Tilda here. And then I'm going to spend it. And I'm going to roll my 3 attack dice versus that roach. I hit him twice, guaranteed to be killed, which is very good. He did not defend. So that roach is dead. Now, I'm not removing this because Lily still has a roach on her tile, and I really want to get her to get that guy off of it because, again, any further roaches that I draw are going to be greedy. Yeah, so that was Maginos' turn. We do not add cheese to the wheel because we have an enemy on the track. It's Lily's turn, so we'll go over to Lily, and she's got really nothing to do except try to shoot that roach. She gained a cheese, and she hit him once. So let's see if he manages to defend. He does not. That is wonderful. Okay, so that roach is dead. Now the roaches are gone. And Lily once again has very little to do. You can see again, this is one of those funky chapters where, yeah, you're playing 4 mice, but whoever's controlling Lily doesn't have as exciting a time of it. So just bear that in mind. If you're playing with a new player, you might want to play that person instead of, if you're trying to get somebody into the game, don't stick them with the Lily. She can get piled on and doesn't have a lot of movement or other stuff to do. All right, so Tilda is going to get up onto the table and really, really hope that she can find that fork. She does find the fork, which is wonderful. Although, again, I didn't necessarily need to worry about it too much, but what it does do for me is, I don't really care too much that I have the fork because I have Nez. But I do add 2 to the chapter end track in virtue of getting it. So I added a page in virtue of coming up here because I had those greedy roaches. But all those roaches are gone, and I got the fork and added 2 pages, so I'm net +1. Oh, and then another thing happens, actually, that I forgot to mention in virtue of Maginos killing Brodie. All right, so on the back of the rulebook, you'll find the mouse achievements. We've already talked a little bit about story achievements. Those are just plot devices that move the game along. These are bonuses that accrue to your mice if certain things happen to them or they accomplish certain things. And they're pretty much all beneficial. And it's not 100% clear from the wording of all of these, but I think that what happens is you can get them in every chapter that you play, and they only stay with the mouse for the duration of that one chapter. So they're cleared when you move to the next chapter in a campaign. I could be wrong about that, but it certainly seems to be the case. Cheese Master, basically if you roll 3 or more cheese in one attack or defense roll. So this is only possible if you're rolling at least 3 dice. But if they all turn up cheese, then you get the Cheese Master achievement, which gives you a bonus. Roach Master, if you kill 4 roaches in a single encounter. Poison Master, if you're captured with at least 1 poison wound. Scaper, if you're captured twice, a single mouse. And then Cat Tamer accrues to the first mouse that defeats Brodie. And the effect is, for the rest of the chapter, all large minions roll 1 fewer die when defending against an attack from the Cat Tamer. So this is actually going to be relevant here because the special setup for the last tile actually includes a large, somewhat nasty centipede. So it's kind of nice to have one of your mice get a bit of a bonus against that enemy. So Maginos, when he attacks that enemy, the enemy is going to roll 1 fewer defense dice. Now, some of these, it's worth noting, some of these are also really important because the effect when you get it is move the chapter end marker 1 page further. That happens for the Cheese Master, the Roach Master, and the Scaper. It does not happen for the Poison Master or for the Cat Tamer. So in virtue of defeating Brodie, however, Maginos does have that bonus. So what we're going to do for Maginos is actually give him the mouse achievement, Cat Tamer, for this chapter. And again, that will show us that large minions roll 1 fewer defense die against this mouse for the rest of the chapter, which is pretty cool. Hooray! Go Maginos. Okay, so coming back to the game, Tilda has grabbed the fork. We are off and running. Nez can move us on, but so can Maginos. So I think what Nez is going to do with his turn is try to find that whisker froth and see if we can grab that. So he's going to roll a search. He finds it, so he can go ahead and get the whisker froth elixir, which is pretty handy because that's a free cure not only of wounds but also of poison wounds. And then Maginos is going to go ahead and move us on to the next tile. Move us back to the previous tile, in fact, on his turn, which puts us back here. Now remember once again that, and I actually forgot while I was up there, I do this pretty frequently, I forgot while I was up there that I did have the grape as a special item that I could have used against those roaches. That was fairly stupid of me to do that. That could have made a difference in triggering Brodie and whatnot, but I was just fixated on the greedy roaches and the likelihood of getting Brodie, and I completely forgot about having the grape. So, lesson learned there. I went to all the trouble to get that grape, and then I didn't even use it. But, what are you going to do? Now, that was Maginos's turn. He moved, and he then moved us on, so that is basically the end of his turn. But recall that we are now on this tile, and as a result, we're going to clear the search markers from the previous tile. But if you recall, when we left here, we had only searched with one mouse. Now, when we came through here the last time, Maginos was the one who found the grape. And remember, we noted then that Nez and Tilda were still going to be able to search. But Maginos has finished his turn. He wouldn't be able to search anyway. When we come around now to Lily's turn, and again, Lily really can't do anything, we now have to add cheese to the wheel because there are no enemies on the initiative track. We then come to Tilda's turn. Now, Nez could potentially fail to be able to move here and move us on, but I think I'm still going to risk it for a couple of searches. We still haven't found anything really good for Maginos to keep. We do have that Whisker Froth that, if nothing else, he'll just carry that to the next chapter. But I think what we're going to do is go ahead and let her search. So we only have one cheese on the wheel. If we go to 2 before moving on to the final tile, I'm not too worried about it. I do kind of want Tilda to be able to heal these two guys, and I might want to divvy up. Let's take a look at the cheese situation right now. I don't want Nez running around with 8 cheese. But that's a consideration, I guess. He could level up, but in order to grab something. But let's hold off on that. Let's see if we can get cheese in another way. All right, yeah. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have her grab some cheese from Nez, so that he's not running around with 8 cheese and nobody else has any. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to play it safe. I'm going to spend 2 of those cheese to heal her and Nez, so that I don't have any wounds to worry about. And that's her turn, but I'm still going to move her a little closer to the exit. And then Nez, let's see how far he can move. He can move 3. All right, so I do have a choice to make now. Do I want to move us on, or do I want to get 2 searches in with Tilda and Nez before going? I'm going to go ahead and just add a cheese to the wheel and get a couple of searches in and hope I find something useful. So Nez is going to search and find something. Shriek Bug, that is not good, but Nez has the Thimble Helm. When the wearer of the helm draws a treachery card from the search deck, discard that card and draw again. So, Nez will go ahead and discard the Shriek Bug. We're going to ignore that, and we're going to draw again. And we get the Summon Cat Scroll, which I am definitely going to just ditch. This is a weird item, but basically you use it and you summon Brodie. Potentially could be very useful because Brodie does a lot of killing of bad guys as well as you. And if you have the catnip, like suppose you were just running through a regular chapter and you happen to find the catnip in the search deck, this is a nice way to get the cat tamer ability to give you an edge. But I can't think of too many other situations why you would ever use this. I certainly, because I already have Cat Tamer and I've used my catnip, there's no way in hell I'm going to be summoning Brodie. So I'm going to discard that in favor of, and I already used up the cheese cache earlier when that came. Oh, you know what? I also forgot something else. We'll come back to that. Summon Cat. We're going to discard that in favor of a cheese. And I forgot something else. When we went up a page in the chapter track, we had somebody here with the, tilde had determination. So I forgot to do that. I don't think it affected anything, but she needs to discard determination. So one problem with the digital version is I don't have the cards in front of me, so if I don't remember they're there, it's easy to forget. But the determination card basically said all the mice in the party get 2 cheese when the page, the hourglass is advanced. So each of these mice would have gotten 2 cheese. All right. Okay, so that was Nez's turn. We come to Maginos. Maginos has already successfully searched, so he'll just move over wherever he can get to. He's really got nothing else to do, but I think you do want to get him some cheese. So let me see where we're at cheese-wise. He's got 2. Nez has 7. He'll take a couple from Nez. Just so it's divvied up a little bit. And then we come around to Lily, cheese the wheel. Lily can't do anything, so we come to Tilda. Tilda will then search and find something as well. Well, that's kind of cool. No! Oh man, that sucked. A couple of treachery cards right in a row. Okay, well, Tilda, who had 5 cheese on her, loses all of it. That's terrible. That's a level right there. That's okay. Well, milking the tile really came back to bite me. All I got was, for my 2 searches, was one that allowed me to add a cheese, and then one that made me lose 5 cheese. So, yeah, that's that. That happened. No reason to stick around here, so Nez will just move us on to the next tile. We'll go ahead and clear those search markers once again. And we are on the final tile. Let's bounce over to the special rules and see what happens here. Alright, so there are 4 special rules for the crystal tunnels. 1, it says there's a special setup. Place Skitterclack, we'll come back to him, and 3 rat warriors normally. Then there's a story moment, that's just fluff text, but basically, oh gosh, there's Lily, let's save her. And then we have a special rule for releasing her, and again, it's if you have Nez the Tinkerer or the Dinner Fork, then if you get onto the space, you can spend your action to release her. And then the surge is 1 rat warrior. So that is a special surge. And we are now placing enemies from not from an encounter card. So importantly, with Lily's special ability for preemptive shot, you can use it when new minions are placed on the board, not when they are placed from a encounter card. So also, because we're talking for the special setup that says place 1 fewer enemy and replace it with a roach on Lily's tile, that is for when you're placing minions from an encounter card. So it would not accrue or apply to this tile at all. So we're going to place them normally. Now what's interesting about this is we place Skitterclack, who is basically just a centipede that's a little bit nastier, right? So the regular centipede, 3 melee, melee battle, 2 defense, 4 hit points, and they stun on a hit. Skitterclack is 2 melee, 2 defense, 3 hit points, but importantly, if he rolls a shield with a star on it, not the sword shield star, but just the shield star, then he gets ×2 defense. So it counts as 2 successes when defending. And then on top of that, mice can't defend against his attack. So notice he's rolling far fewer attack. And he's not stunning on a hit, unlike the regular centipede. So even though he's a centipede, he works differently. Even though he uses the figure for the centipede, he works differently from the centipede. So he doesn't stun, and he rolls fewer attacks. But importantly, mice cannot defend against his attacks. You can't roll. It doesn't matter what your defense is. Plus, he gets extra defense when he's attacking. So that whole bonus thing for rolling only one defense dice is that much more important for Maginos. This guy's only rolling one defense against him. So that's actually pretty handy. But we are adding Skitterclack to the battle. So we'll put him in initiative, and we'll throw him on the map. Now, the rules, again, for placing minions, it says place them normally. Well, you start by placing large enemies first, and you place them on the minion entry space that is closest to the mice that is open. There's a minion entry space here, but it's not open to a large enemy. So I believe that we need to place him here because that's only 3 away from Lily. It's also closer to them in case that matters. So I'm going to place Skitterclack here. Then we place 3 rat warriors. We need to add them to initiative, and we place them again normally. So you place them in the minion entry spaces that are left, spreading them out as much as you can. So I believe you place them like this because, again, that entry space is not filled. So it's still open to him. Now, once again, we're placing enemies without any enemies on the initiative track. So that triggers a shuffle of initiative. Nez is getting to go first, and that's going to be important because Skitterclack is going to be going for Lily really quick. We have got to do something to try to get in the way of that. So that is our first consideration in this fight. Let me pause here, save the file, and blow my nose really quick, and then I'll be right back. All right, so the last thing I want to have happen is, again, to have Skitterclack just bounce up here and murder Lily without her being able to do anything. She can't defend. She does have 3 hit points, but he can chew through that potentially real quick. So what I might want to do is just have Nez, who's not only my heaviest hitter. Well, let's even see if this is an option. Let's see how far he can move before we make any decisions. But ideally, if he rolls a 3, I can move 1, 2, 3, 4, put him here, and attack Skitterclack. If I can't do that, then I might have to get clever and see what I can do. But we do have a little bit of cheese to play with here. Okay, so let's just see how far he can move. And unfortunately, he can only move 2 spaces. This is the downside of Nez. Well, I can't do anything about Skitterclack with Nez. I mean, I do have set trap, so I have a 50-50 chance of stunning him, so that's a possibility. I could also do set trap on the rats and try to slow them down a little bit. But I think what I'm going to do to try to save Skitterclack, I think I have an idea in mind, and I'm going to show you how this plays out. I'm going to need a lot of cheese for it, so especially because Tilda lost all her cheese, it's a little risky, but I am going to do the following. I'm going to have him move only 1 and then swing with 4 attack dice against that rat. He didn't roll any cheese, but he did hit twice. We cheesed the wheel once, although I'm not worried about that. I got plenty of time on my chapter track, and the surge is 1 rat, so I'm not too worried about that. But more importantly, the rat is killed, so that takes away a little bit of the threat there. Now that's Nez's turn, but what he's going to do, he's going to trade, and I'm going to give Maginos a whole bunch of cheese. And I do have a plan in mind here, so I'm going to give him, how much cheese do I need? I'm going to give him 3. I think that's enough. And if it's not, Maginos can take more. But I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay. And the reason for that is Maginos is my next chance, the only person who can do anything about Skitterclack. Now, he could potentially he actually can't kill Skitterclack no matter what he does, because, well, if he goes over there and fires 3 and they all roll a bow and Skitterclack's only rolling 1 defense, potentially could kill Skitterclack. But I'm going to play this a little bit safer and do something that I think is pretty clever. But I want to check and see how much cheese I need for this. Okay, I'm just going to roll this and see if it works. He's got 7 cheese. He has the Mystic Bolt ability, but that's not where I'm going with this. Here's what I'm going to do. Maginos is going to level up. I'm going to spend 6 of my 7 cheese. And I'm going to gain the invisibility special ability. Here's how this works. Use this ability at the end of your turn. Now, importantly, that doesn't take up your turn. You just use it at the end of your turn. Until the next turn, this mouse is invisible. An invisible mouse is completely ignored by minions as if it were not on the tile at all. An invisible mouse cannot be attacked. Minions do not have to stop on a space with an invisible mouse. So, here's my thinking on this. He doesn't have to stop in this space if he doesn't want to. Skitterclack, that is. But Skitterclack, being large, can't be in a space with a mouse. He can't move into Lily's space. He couldn't move into this space if Maginos was here. Arguably, if Maginos is here, so here's my thought. I've got the cheese. Invisibility only costs 1 cheese. So I've got the cheese to do it. He could move here, cast invisibility. Depending on how you read it, it says they don't have to... the minions... He's ignored by minions as if he's not on the tile at all. So the way I read that is, this guy, if he rolls a 2, could move through the space. He just couldn't end on the space because he can't fit in the space. So if he rolls a 2 for movement, or even a 3 for movement, he's here and he can attack Lily. But if Maginos is here, he can't move into that space. He's trying to get to Lily. The worst thing that could happen is he goes this way, which I'm actually happy with. I'm fine with. And even then, only if he gets a 3 can he threaten Nez. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to move Maginos there. Now, did I roll his movement? I haven't rolled his movement yet. So that could be a moot point, actually, now that I think about it. Let's see how far he can move. He can move 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I put him here. But before I move him, I'm going to steal another cheese from Nez, actually. And no, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm going to move there. My thought was to take that extra cheese was I would use Mystic Bolt and then I would use Invisibility, but you can only use 1 ability on your turn. So if I use Mystic Bolt, I couldn't use Invisibility. So I'm just going to do a regular attack against Skitterclack because Maginos is reducing his defense. Now I'm only rolling 2 attack dice, but I did get 1 hit. He only rolls 1 defense die, and he doesn't block it, so Maginos has put a wound on Skitterclack, which is very, very, very nice. Now he's going to spend his cheese to turn invisible. Now, I don't know if I put invisibility. Yeah, I didn't put invisibility as a thing on there, so we'll just have to remember that he's invisible. So Skitterclack now has this funky thing where on his turn he rolls to move. The closest mouse that he would normally try to get to would be Lily, but he can't. So arguably he goes there and stops, but maybe if he can reach Nez, he'll try to do that. But let's even see how far he moves. He only gets a 2. So I'm going to say he just moves like this, trying to get somewhere that he can go. But he doesn't attack Maginos because he doesn't know he's there. It's a little weird with the spacing and the fact that he can't occupy that space where Maginos already is, but I think that's the best interpretation of the rules that I can see. It's now Tilda's turn, and Tilda is most definitely going to try to kill this guy. So her movement is 5, but she can't move past him. This is the danger here, is these rats are going to start coming this way and potentially swarm Lily, and these guys are kind of cut off from him now, but he's got 1 wound on him, and let's see how this goes. She gained a cheese and scored 1 hit, which is unlikely to kill him. Wow. She did put a wound on him. Unlike Brodie, he does cheese the wheel, but I'm not all that concerned about it for the reasons I mentioned before. And he's down to, I only need 1 more wound to kill him, which is pretty cool. Oh, you know what else? One other thing I forgot to do is Lily has her preemptive shot, which she didn't take, but that's my fault for not remembering. Now, it is a real question whether she can see that space from here. If you draw a line from the center there to the center there, does it slink between those 2 spaces? I kind of think it does. Can you move between those spaces? That's, I don't know. I honestly, I kind of just tend to treat this as a wall and that people have to go around. Are these adjacent? Can you not move but you can't attack? It's just, I really wish there were rules on this or some indication, or they had just made this crystal touching. Arguably, you can fire through it, but you can't move through it. That's, I think, a fair... I mean, you can go here to here, but can you fit through that space? I don't know. Can you attack through it but not move through it? It's tough to say what you're supposed to do, honestly. And the reason I'm mentioning is that it's Lily's turn. But rather than make any unwarranted claims about being able to shoot them through that gap, I'm just going to play it as unfriendly to myself as possible and shoot at Skitterclack. She's only rolling 2. She has no other abilities to try to roll. She did get 1 hit. Now this guy does roll 2 defense and blocks it handily, so she is not able to accomplish anything. We come now to the rats. And this guy can only move 2. But, so that's 1, 2. 1, 2. You know, arguably you could call those adjacent and they could move here, but then can you attack through there? I don't even know. So I'm going to say, because that's a little dubious and going through here is a little dubious, I'm just going to say they're coming down here, trying to go around. Because I don't know. I don't like this tile all that much, honestly, because of these questions. But that's how I'm going to move it. And we come now to Nez. Nez is going to move. He can't fail to move here. And he's going to try to end Skitterclack. Now, that's not a guaranteed kill. He did get a cheese, but remember, Skitterclack could potentially, even though he's only rolling 2 defense, he could get 4 blocks out of it. So let's see what he rolls. He only got 2 blocks out of it. Remember, this was 3 blocks for him because the shield with a star is counting as 2. I think when I initially said this, I said the shield star, not the shield star sword. But it is actually listed on his card as shield sword star. When I put it on the token, I just said shield star to save space, because the only face that has a shield and a star is one that has a sword. So there's no ambiguity. It's a 1 in 6 chance of getting that double block. But anyway, he got 2 blocks out of it, which is not enough to stop 3 attacks. So Nez was able to put an end to him, and because of the way we did that, he actually was not able to lay any attacks on the party, which is just how I wanted things to go down. It is now Maginos' turn. He is no longer invisible, and as a result, he can attack these guys. The question is, does he want to? And I think the answer is yes, and I think I'm going to... Now, I can't trade with Lily, actually, and I don't have any cheese left. So Maginos doesn't have too much going for him right now, except the potential to move into that space and try to wallop him with a regular melee attack. And I think he's going to do that. Yep. That's 2 hits versus 2 defense, not blocked. So that is 1 dead rat. Next up we have Tilda here. She is going to roll her move. She can't fail to move into that space. She's going to do it. I guess she doesn't just go here. And she's going to roll 3 attacks and whiff completely. Lily, I'm going to say, cannot shoot that space. That looks pretty clearly to go from there to there through that crystal. So she does not have line of sight. And the Rat Warrior is therefore going to attack Maginos. Now, had I moved Tilda in here, Maginos would still be the target of the attack, and that's why I didn't bother. But Maginos has 3 hit points, and the rat can only do 2 damage, so I'm not super scared just yet. He rolls 2 hits. Maginos only rolls 1 defense. Doesn't block, so he does take those 2 wounds. And now I'm worried about him, even though I wasn't before. Next up we have Nez. And Nez is going to come over here, and he can't fail to move 2, so he's going to come here and try to kill that rat. He's going to ding 2 cheese and 2 hits, only one of which is blocked, so that rat is killed. That rat should have moved up a couple of times in initiative, actually, now that I think about it. Okay, that's Nez's turn. Now Maginos' turn. There are no bad guys on here, so he could go there and rescue Lily, and that would end the game. So instead of doing that, I am going to search and find something. Wow, that was really beautiful. Okay, so Maginos receives a poison wound. In virtue of being wounded already, he is now captured, which does a couple of things. Okay, so that takes him to 1 poison wound marker. That means he's captured. Now, the good news is he didn't have any special things going on. He didn't have any special items equipped that he would lose or anything like that. So he just okay, we'll get those back off because when he comes back he won't have any wounds. But yeah, he was captured, so that advances the page by 1. And I guess that's it at this point. He doesn't lose any items. He doesn't have any statuses to worry about, but he's captured in virtue of searching. Now, he also, I believe, gains the Scaper, no, not the Poison Master achievement in virtue of being captured with at least 1 poison wound. Not that it matters, but he gets the Poison Master achievement, and again, what that's going to do for him is, for the rest of the chapter, poison wounds are normal wounds for this mouse. So he's not poisoned anymore. Not that it is going to do anything, but I'll throw it on there for completeness' sake. Now, so here's what's ugly about this is we still haven't gotten a good item for Maginos throughout all of this, but if I stay here and try to get a couple more searches in, I'm going to trigger another surge and a rat is going to come in. But you know what? I'm not worried about it. So I'm just going to milk this. I'm going to have her search rather than freeing Tilda. It seems a little weird. She doesn't find anything. Lily can't do anything on her turn. So when we come around back to Nez, we now add a rat to the initiative, which triggers a shuffle, and the rat is going first, and he's placed on one of the minion entry spaces. You can pick which one. I'll put him here. And so on his turn, he rolls a move. He, of course, can move 3. 1, 2, 3. And he attacks the highest in initiative order that he can. That's Nez. 4, 2. It's 2 hits. Nez is rolling 3 defense. He blocks one of them and takes a wound. That's the rat's turn. His aggression doesn't matter. Now, if we were out of combat, this is when Maginos would come back. But because we're in combat, his turn comes around, he's not coming back. Nez on his turn is going to Sorry, that was all because of the when it came back around to Nez's turn, we put cheese on the wheel. I didn't take the time to do that. So we advanced that page, and the cheese wheel is now back down to 0. Okay. Now Nez on his turn, he's going to swing away and gain a cheese, and that's it. Tilda will swing away. Scoring 2 hits, which are blocked. Lily actually can do something, so let's see what Lily can do. Lily gets a hit, and he blocks it. We come around to the rat again. He attacks for 2 against Nez, and whiffs. Maginos is skipped. Nez is going to clobber. That is 1 dead rat. He blocks only 1, doesn't cheese the wheel, not that it matters. And he is gone once again. That's Nez's turn. Tilda's turn. She's going to search. Doesn't find anything. Lily doesn't do anything. Maginos comes back. Now when Maginos comes back, where do we put him? I believe we can put him in any space we want. I think we just put him where the other mice are. I'll double check that rule. But and I'll put a note if I'm wrong, but that's, I think we just put him there. But he's already searched, so he's not going to do anything. Nez is going, oh, well, we came back around, so we added cheese to the wheel. And Nez is going to search and find something. He finds the throwing daggers, which can only be used by a warrior or a scamp. He's not going to be holding on to that going forward. Nobody else here can use it. And all it does is really give you a ranged attack. It's nice for him to have, but he's going to be keeping the thimble home. So he's just going to discard that for a cheese. And looking at the cheese situation here, we don't have much else going on. So he's just going to go ahead and level up. Taking him down to 1. And I'm going to get him that first aid ability real quick so that I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's nice to have another healing option. We then come to Tilda, who will search. She finds something. She's going to draw a search card. She gets the slow scroll, which I don't really need. So she'll discard that in order to get a cheese. Not that that matters, because even though she now has 2 cheese, and Lily has 2 cheese, and Nez has 1 cheese, we can't really do anything there right now. I was just trying to get a couple of options for potentially... I didn't have her selected, so she doesn't have that search marker on there, but everybody's searched. You can. And as a result, Lily can't do anything still. Maginos will then just move on to this space and free her, and we have completed the chapter. We had 1 more cheese on the wheel, but it didn't matter. Okay, so because we had that buffer, we weren't worried about timing, so we could milk this last tile. I tried to get a couple more chances at a item for Maginos to keep, but unfortunately Maginos really didn't have much luck there. So what we're looking at going into chapter 3 is we don't have any good items for Lily to keep. She still has that intense cowering. As far as other items go, we have the dinner fork, which we have to give up. The poison cheese is going to go away. That didn't really stay. So he had no items. He's got the whisker froth. She has her warding staff and the dinner fork, which we're not keeping because it's a party item. So the dinner fork is going away from Tilda. So we have intense cowering. I'll just let Lily keep that because she's got nothing else to keep. Whisker froth, I'll have Maginos keep. So I'll have Nez give that over to Maginos. So it at least has something when he starts off in the next chapter. And yeah, at the end of the day, we were able to get through that. We were able to rescue Lily. We were not defeated. We didn't even really have much danger of being defeated. We did have our first capture of the game, and of course it's the fragile Maginos who was being reckless and paid for it. And despite milking all the searches as much as I possibly could, it really bit me with a couple of treachery cards and then a couple of items that were no good to me at the end of the game. But the reason I did that was 4 shots at trying to get an item for Lily or Maginos to kind of carry with them. The downside here is I do have the thimble helm and the walnut shell breastplate. But unfortunately, neither Lily nor Maginos can use either of them. So Nez is just going to discard the walnut shell in favor of the thimble helm, because again, he can only keep 1 item. So he's back down to 2 defense dice. It was nice having 3 for a while. Tilda's hanging on to her warning staff. Maginos has his regular staff. He's keeping the Whisker Froth. She's keeping Intense Cowering. We were able to get Nez the first aid ability. We were able to get Maginos the invisibility ability. Tilda started with Major Heal, so we gained 2 level ups. And then again, as part of the wrap up, arguably you can kind of trade and go through all these items in between chapters. So we do still have 7 cheese amongst the party. I'm going to say that allows me to level up Lily. I think she earned it. So I'm going to go ahead and just get her an ability, and I'll go ahead and get her aimed shot. Or actually, I want accurate shot. I like the ability to just remove defense dice from enemies. It requires 2 cheese, but remember, every time she walks onto a tile for the first time, she gets 2 cheese. So she's going to be able to fire that off with some frequency. So especially because her bow is only rolling 2 attack dice, the ability to remove 2 defense dice against almost all the enemies in the game, that means they're rolling nothing. So that's very handy. Okay, so that is pretty much where we're at. I will clear the cheese and move us on to the next map, but that's it for Chapter 2. We managed to save Lily. I think the only thing that I did wrong is I think I forgot to advance the ambush on the previous tile. Apologies for that. There was an ambush card on, I think, the not the greedy roaches, but the regular roaches before that. I didn't remember to bump them up in initiative, I don't think. But we got to see Brodie and go through all of that. And we got to see what I think is a fairly clever, I'm pretty sure legal, use of the invisibility ability in order to manage what Skitterclack could do in this tile. And we were able to talk about some of the unfortunate ramifications of this little wall here, which is, it's very unclear what you're supposed to do with it. I like to say you can fire through it but can't move or physically attack through it. That's just what makes sense to me based on that picture. I do feel that gives you an advantage on this particular tile. And other times when this comes up, it might not really help you that much. But yeah, that is how I see this tile. That's how I played it. So that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. And as we go through these and we're encountering things like Brodie, for the second time, we won't have to pause and explain everything over and over again. So we will hopefully have subsequent chapters not be taking as long, because we won't have to be constantly talking about new rules, because we've seen it all before. All right, so hopefully we'll be able to just kind of plow through these more quickly going forward. And I guess that's it. I will see you for Chapter 3. Until then, fight true, brave mice, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Take care.